I was thinking, man, like, too bad for R. Kelly, you know what I mean? People turn his stuff off. Michael keeps getting played. Michael gets played at like elementary school graduation still.
Hey, that's true.
You that good?
You go to some like major children's events and they're playing Michael Jackson, and I'm like, do you all not know?
Read the room. Read the room. Hey, welcome to Not a Fit Podcast. This is your boy Anthony Concerted Chicano. I got my guys. I got the Bishop. I got the Token. We got a lot going on, guys. I want to thank everybody for another fantastic episode. The views were out the roof this week. Yeah, there's a lot of comments on this one. There was a lot of comments, a lot of debate going back and forth. Who is Israel? A lot of people telling me I'm wrong. Man, how's that make you feel when people say you're wrong? How's that make you feel? You don't care, do you?
Did someone say I was wrong?
No, but how's it make you feel when they say you're wrong?
Oh, I don't think I experienced it yet.
Today's episode, we're talking all about humility. This is great. Next, you're going to tell me about a sermon you wrote for yourself by yourself.
I hope you noticed that I started laughing because I already knew he was going to say something.
I think we need to bring the wives back on. I think we need to bring the wives back on and figure out if Deshaun has ever been wrong. I want your mom and your wife to be on the next episode. We want to feel how wrong you are. I guess only Jesus himself can tell you you've been wrong, huh? My gosh. Can you believe that? Hey, so this is where Josiah gets it from right here. All right, now we see who it's really from right now. No, I you know what? I think sometimes, I don't care if people tell me I'm wrong. I just think, we're going to get into it a little bit later, but when you talk about the whole Israel thing, people try to make it clean, cut, and dry. And there's certain things in the Bible that are clean, cut, and dry, and there's other ones that you got to kind of navigate through. And so we're going to piggyback up off that in just a little bit. Before we go getting too serious, though, I do got to thank everybody. The episode last week was solid. Thank you so much for chiming in and leaving the comments, the likes. I want to continue to ask you just to go ahead and, refer a friend to this. Tell them to hit the like button, subscribe button, leave a comment, and we'll be sure to get back to you. So, okay, I saw something. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I get different parts of the week bring a little bit of stress. That ever happened to you, or is every day stressful? Every day stressful, or you get different parts with more stress?
Yeah, I think depending on the day of the week, it usually has its ebbs and flows.
Yeah, ebbs and flows, right? Ebbs and flows. Okay. So what I've been liking, and y'all keep it coming, is people keep sending me these vlogs, these video logs of, basically created by, some AI software about biblical things. I saw another one about Moses. Oh, man, these are great. I love them. But somebody sent me, my boy JT sent this to me, and I want to go ahead and show you this clip. It's if Bible characters were MMA fighters. This is right up my alley. Watch this.
Samson. Wow, powerful knockout.
The hair is my vow, bro. My strength, that comes from God.
Goliath, how do you feel?
He should know better than to mess with a Philistine.
David, you just dropped the giant. How do you feel?
Sometimes it only takes one shot.
What'd you think? I felt Goliath was a little underrated. What'd you think?
He looks short.
No, it's fun. It's a good concept. It could have been better. I was like, man, they could have got some more out of that. But I like that idea.
We think they could have got more out of it. What part?
I don't know. I think it'd be funnier. I'm not the creative one, but that could have been more. Okay. I like it, though. I like the idea of it.
The MMA one?
Yeah.
If your Bible character was an MMA. Okay, is it me or did Samson look like a wrestler? You know what I mean? Like the way he talked?
Well, you said MMA, and I thought you misspoke. I thought it was like WWE. Or is it?
Oh, okay. So you thought it was like WWF.
So
stuff.
then I read it, and I was like, oh, no, he was right. Because he
MMA.
does. He looks dead on like.
But the way he talks. You don't remember the wrestling guy we had on? The one who won the state championship or whatever from Bakersfield? Oh. And he talked about the bamboo underwear and socks. Was that what that was? And I asked you about that. What was it? Yeah, he had his toilet paper, but he had some special socks and chonies and everything.
Yeah,
remember?
Wrestler dude.
And then he was like, "Man, I was too arrogant. I didn't pray in the spirit. I didn't remember that guy." That's who he reminded me of right there. But what did you think about David coming out all scrawny though?
David's a little guy. And I do think Goliath was too small.
Yeah, I feel like he should have been at least another foot taller. But I like the concept. Like, if you're like, do you have a favorite Bible character?
Now I can think of. At the top of my head. No,
okay, what about you? You have a Bible character?
I do like Peter.
Okay, let's go Old Testament though. Let's go Old Testament.
Joshua.
Okay, so what would Joshua look like? Like he looked like a scrapper though, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Joshua is probably like I imagine Joshua being kind of a loser a little bit.
Okay.
Like because he's all scared. He's
Okay.
coming in after Moses.
Okay.
So he's the backup quarterback. Joshua is the backup quarterback.
Okay, well, that
but he's a
works.
fighter. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So he made it to the league because he
Okay.
was just
Scrappy. Okay, so I was like, what would old man Elijah come out? Well, he's bald because when they made fun of him when he was bald, he called down the she-bears, right? So I figured him like a little older, a little scrappier, you know what I mean? Bald, kind of like weathered a little bit. Like we can keep going. Like I think whoever's making these vlogs, do some on some more Old Testament characters. I need to see more. Jacob walking with a sore hip. You know what I mean? Like we need to see more. So I like these. Please keep those vlogs coming. Someone sent me one about Adam and Eve. And basically like Adam was like, yes, hey, this is all of our garden. This is great. And Eve goes, what's that tree? Oh, don't eat from it. She goes, oh, that apple looks good. Mm-hmm. And then next scene is like, the apple was great. Here, Adam, you take a bite. This is all bad. So keep sending them. They did another, I think it was 2 weeks ago. We did the one on the resurrection. Remember, like, hey, I thought he was going to be down for a week. And he was down for 3 days. They did another one. It was a little bit too much. So like they were like, hey, we were just rolling dice for his gowns. I mean, it was a little. I was like, oh, I can't play that. Like, I felt a little convicted watching it. Does that ever happen? You felt a little convicted watching it? Like, yeah, if I felt convicted watching, I probably shouldn't replay it. You know what I mean? Has that ever happened to you? But you're never wrong. But has that ever happened?
I'm sure. No, there's some. There's some things you like. Oh, yeah, I shouldn't watch that.
Yeah.
Or that wasn't. Yeah.
So anyway, so I like them. If you guys get any more of those, please send them my way. We'll get a laugh out of it. But I like that Samson dude, bro. That was dope. I like it. Okay. Hey, thank you for watching the Not a Fitted Podcast. It's your boy Anthony Conservative Chicano. I want to thank everybody for helping us to get to that 1,000 mark. But we're not done yet. We would love your help, and we'd appreciate it if you like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Get the word out, man. We feel like we're doing the body of Christ a great service right now by talking about culture and its influence on the church. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like button. So you guys, one of you sent me this clip, and I want to preface this. I've read a lot of Mark Driscoll's books. I've watched a lot of his sermons. I have nothing but respect for the guy. But a lot of times I tell people that pastors are human too, and they make mistakes and they can get out of pocket on some things. And I think what makes a good pastor a great pastor is when you can own it, you can own your mistakes. You know, because we all have mulligans, right? That's a golfing term, correct? Mulligan? Is that a golfing term or is that just a term?
I know they use it in golf.
I've only ever used it golfing.
But I don't know if like real golfers use it.
Oh, okay. Because we're not real golfers.
No,
that's
why I said I know what it is. But
okay, that's a fact. Just did you know that we're not real golfers?
You get a redo.
Yeah. Did you know that we're not real golfers? Were you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay.
I knew that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. We need to be clear on that though, because we are not real golfers. I really suck. So anyway, but when I was on the golf course, they taught me about the mulligan, which just means you need a do-over, right?
Yeah,
You get a do-over. Okay. So in my opinion, I want you guys to watch it. And I know we all kind of feel the same way because we discussed it. But this is definitely a mulligan on his part, and I definitely think he needs to come out and fix this and correct this. But we'll let the audience be the judge of that. I'm not impugning his character, but I am discussing his content. I'm not impugning judgment on who he is as a person, but I am saying you do got to take responsibility for the words you speak. So, but we'll let the audience, and we'll get some feedback after this. But watch this one right here.
That's why you should have went to Home Depot and picked up one of those guys before Ice did. Yeah.
Nah. Now the funny part was the wife who hit her husband in the head 2 times. That was funny, but inappropriate. I think that's out of bounds. I think if God called you to be a comedian, you should have been a comedian. But if God called you to be a pastor, you probably should move a little bit more cautiously, choose your words a little bit more wisely. Do you think he knew what he was saying?
Oh yeah, I mean I think he's super smart. I think he's calculated. I think he's probably at a place we're trying not to step into the shoes of somebody's character. Okay. I think that he's at a place where he probably could care 2 rips what other people think about him. It's like, I'm already big time. So,
But should you care?
Yeah, absolutely you should care.
He's in Arizona. And for those of you who don't know, Arizona got a lot of
You
Mexicans.
should care if you're pastoring people.
But I'm saying Arizona got a lot of Mexicans.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not at his church.
Well, I don't know about after
You
this
know,
if they still around.
I don't know. I had a really hard time with this one.
You did.
Yeah.
Is this why don't you is this in your opinion is this where people, not me but other people would say like that's a white privilege statement?
Well, like for me, I have a hard time. Like I probably write people off faster than I should.
Okay.
I would have a hard time listening to anything he had to say after this, because to me, you just showed that you're super racist.
That was
And it's like, if you're called to love people as a pastor and you can, like his little laugh and stuff at the end, I'm like, dude, I can't do it. I can't listen to you again.
Well, let's be honest. That was at worst, we'll call it prejudicial, and at worst we're gonna call it, that was very much racism, and at best we'll say that was very prejudiced or biased. But coming from a pastor of his position, his platform, of his notoriety, that was completely unwarranted and unwise. And I think the right thing to do is to own it and take that on the chin and to express that was an out-of-pocket statement and should have never been said. That's just me. But
and we had kind of talked about this. Like, why would you post that? Like, where are the people? Where are the people at who are saying, "Hey,
let's come back to that in just a second. Let's come back. We're going to talk about the get back coach.
Hey, let's not be racist, guys.
Yes.
But they're in the back going, yeah, we're a bunch
well,
of
one guy
racists.
goes, ooh.
Yeah.
But we're going to get to that in a second. What was your first thoughts? Then I want to piggyback on that, the get back coach.
I mean, that's sort of where I was at. I was, I wouldn't say just from that I would think he's a racist.
Well, it was a racist comment.
Yeah, my thing was like, how do you just let that go? How do you let that go online? And it was my biggest issue. Like, how do you not reflect on that as like, maybe I probably shouldn't go out.
Let me push on you just a little though. Then what does somebody have to do to be racist?
You can't know.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't know.
So you're saying if somebody makes an off-cuff comment like that might not totally, completely deem them as a racist.
Well, because
you'd have to see more.
Because I guess how do you judge it? It's because he's a white man. Now I've heard Mexican people say way worse things.
No, okay, and I'll say this.
I won't lie about that.
I think part of what the problem is here is like you don't get to know the guy, right? But people who help him put this stuff out, like it's their job to protect you. And so there are conversations that we have all the time where it's like, man, this is probably a good conversation just between the 3 of us.
Absolutely.
Let's not put this on a podcast.
Right.
And that's like helping to like protect us because we understand each other. Mm-hmm. We understand like what you truly mean. Mm-hmm. Like, but if you just put my face on something that said that, people would think that, oh man, he probably doesn't even know anybody who's Mexican and da 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 da. Little do they know that my wife's Mexican.
What do you think about that? What do you think about what he said?
Oh yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, there's some things you're gonna say to them and be like, you probably shouldn't have said that, but I know who you are. We'll go from there. But the fact that he didn't recognize that, other people didn't realize that. There's stuff like, people, you talk with your friends, like you're not saying in front of anyone else because people don't know the context of what it looks like or what are you saying? Are you really racist? Like, and so he puts himself in a really bad spot where now you're even like judging that.
Both of you bring up some very good points. Let's just walk this out a little bit. You're 100% right in what you're saying in the sense that he did make an off the cuff comment or a premeditated. We don't know, and I won't judge, but it's either one or the other. Okay. You're right. We don't know if he's a complete racist. We do know this is a racist comment in which if he wants to put on if he wants to put on the facade that he's not a racist, or if he wants to prove to people that he's not a racist, whatever he decides, he should clean this up. Unequivocally, no matter what he decides to do, if he wants to have a reach and a platform that's honorable, he should clean this up at the least of what he could do. I do agree with you. We don't know what he's like. Maybe he is really a good guy, and this was just a weak moment for him. And I do understand we do want to put the blame on some of the people who are running the social media accounts or he even filmed this. Why they put this out there. They knew it was going to be bad. They knew it was going to be controversial. They knew this was going to get some people upset. Why, if you want to be a public image and you want to be a gospel carrier for Jesus Christ, you want to be a kingdom person, why would you ever let this go, especially in a moment right now, in a moment right now where deportations and all this stuff is happening, and there have been some good people who've been caught up in this. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want that to be on your brand? Why would you want that to be on your name? I agree with you. There are some conversations you have amongst close friends, close peers, some stuff you're working out personally that shouldn't be aired out. You don't got to put all your dirty laundry out for everybody to see. You do need to work through this. And some people are going to say, well, do you guys have racist comments, behind closed doors? No, but everybody has prejudices. And the only way you get through those prejudices is you got to work through them. I mean, if we could deliver people from prejudices, then we just lay hands on everybody. But you have to work through some of those biases and prejudices. So that's what we work out amongst, close brothers who are able to call us on our own crap and call us on our own stuff. Does that make sense? So we get that. We understand that. So having said that, where was his people? Where was his people? Where was his social media, vanguard? Where was his social media tech person? Where was I think that's a great question. Where was that get back coach? And if you're that get back coach and he's Mark Driscoll, what are you telling him though? Can you even tell him anything?
I doubt it. I mean, that's why I wouldn't put too much emphasis on blame when it comes to his social media people, because I'm sure that everything runs through him. I mean, and he's yeah, go ahead, put it out there.
Do you blame his get back coach, or do you think his get back coach is just trying to keep his job?
No, I mean, I ultimately think it's his responsibility, but I think he should have some people there he was willing to listen to. And so, I mean, it's ultimately his responsibility to actually even listen to those people because he's the one in charge. But to have some people, they all recognized because that this was a big statement, because the response to it was oh, wow.
Can I play the other side of the coin real quick? Can I play the other side of the coin just real quick, just to make sure we're calling stuff fair? I'm Mexican, at least I have been my whole life. I know there was a period, everybody witnessed this. There's about 3 or 4 year gap, though. There was a question about my authenticity of being a Mexican. You guys know that, remember?
Yeah. So
just throwing that out there.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was just you remember that, right? You weren't black and I wasn't brown. We all went through this. It was a short, brief period, though. I was quite confused.
But we were all on the same white supremacy
team.
But
we were all on the same. We were all on the white supremacy team. You bring up a very valid point.
Then you guys left me.
Yeah, then I left you all by yourself. Okay, my question is to you guys, and this is a legit, honest question, being fair. Had a Mexican pastor of equal platform said something of that comment, do you think people would be just as upset? Or do you think it would be a 50-50 split at that point? And you'd have two people,
No, people for sure wouldn't be as upset. But that's the thing. You have to understand. You have to be there has to be self-awareness. I understand that as a white man, there are certain things that unless you know me, you're gonna take it out of context. And you've got to understand as Mexican, there are certain things that you start making black comments, people are gonna think that you're racist, right?
Right.
But that's just part of knowing how all this race stuff works.
It's true.
But I think that certain people, and I'm not saying I'll put them in this category, or maybe I will put them in this category, you get to a place where you just don't care. I'm gonna say what I want to say because I can. What are all the white people in my church gonna leave because of this? Yeah, right. Probably not.
Right. What do you think?
Yeah, he just doesn't care.
No. If a Mexican, yeah.
Oh no. That's what I said earlier. People wouldn't care. I think it's just, and you wouldn't question maybe even their motivation or their heart. You're just this is. They may think it's funny or cause people they make those comments. I've heard those comments like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. It's not something new that I've heard just now.
Yeah. But this is one of those things where it's you can make fun of your own race, but you can't make fun of other people's races.
Yeah. Well, cause you sent the CNN a video talking about other Latinos who are happy about the deportations.
No, yeah.
And it was and so when they say it's not racist, someone else if he comes and says that, it's racist.
No, I just wanted to play the other side of the coin, just as if he was here to defend himself. Okay, I do have a little follow-up question though. I think this is time and place and the person who says it. And that's how I sum it up, because to be honest with you, if this was a comedian, and you guys know I love a good comedian. You guys know me, I love to laugh. If this was a comedian, I probably wouldn't have shook my head at it at all. I'm this is what a comedian gets paid to do. And here's the thing, if you don't like the comedian, A, you don't have to go see him, and B, you don't have to support him. It's just that simple. And he will rise and fall on the things he says. But that's just, comedians are comedians. And remember, I grew up in an era where gloves were off. I grew up in an era of Richard Pryor. I grew up in Eddie Murphy Raw. Not that any of you should be looking that up, but I grew up in an era that just was uncensored completely. Okay, so I'm just saying that's just me. But I look at time and place, and I look at who you are as a person. I feel like this was poor timing, definitely the wrong place, and you need to recognize who you are. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing that I can't understand. And Pastor Mark, I respect you in the sense that you defend the gospel, and you've done a lot to defend the gospel, but you got to recognize who you are. And if you've gotten to a place where you no longer care what people think, well, that's a sad place to be, because you're supposed to reach the whole world with the whole gospel the whole time. And all you're doing is putting yourself into a pigeon corner of people who need to hear the gospel, and you had a platform to do so. So I would just ask that you'd come out and you own this, and you apologize to those who you offended, because for the record, that Home Depot comment, we understand that you may feel it's real, and it might be real, but it doesn't give you the right to say it. And those are people who are still trying to earn a living, still trying to make ends meet. Those are real people with real families, not just a real butt end of your joke. That's how I would say it. Am I out of pocket for that?
No, I think we all agree with that. I mean, that as a pastor, like, why I don't understand why he would do that video. These are the conclusions that you make. Yeah. The conclusions that you make is that's how you truly feel about Mexicans, or whoever would be at Home Depot, right?
Right.
So the conclusion I make is that you really are a racist,
right? That
you really just don't care what people think about you,
right?
Because you're not a comedian. Like, I just don't. I have no idea why he put that video out.
Yeah. What would you say to him as far as getting the right people around him to kind of like screen that stuff?
Yeah, or unless they're all on the same page. But I mean,
which would be even more concerning.
Yeah, I mean, I think they understood. You can tell the reaction. They understood this was a big statement.
Yeah,
and they should have considered, should we put this out?
But yet they did. See, okay, I'm gonna play the whole other side too, and this is why people say the stuff they do about white privilege and stuff, right? Because what I already hear people saying, because I got a lot of friends and family that don't go to church. They're way out there too on the other side. This is what they'll say. If they're bold enough to say that in public, then what are they saying in private?
Yeah, the way that he says it.
But is that a fair statement though? I mean, I know we don't know because we're not there, and maybe this was the extent of it. But I'm saying because of this, you do give them some merit over there to say that. You give them some merit to say that. Does that make sense? Like you gave them some feet to stand on because you were willing to put that on social media that never dies and will forever live on. This won't be a shining moment.
Yeah, that's possible.
At best, this was really stupid.
Yeah, but I'm saying I can't argue with them over there though. I'm like, yeah, he may say some worse things. I don't think so, but you're right. There's a possibility. I'm saying if you give people a leg to stand on, they're gonna stand on it, and that's what he did. Unfortunately, like I said, I respect the guy. There's been a lot of things. Just a year and a half ago, we were praising him for calling up and calling out the pastor who had the stripper on the pole. Like, I mean, we did. So
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he's had his good moments, and this is not a good moment. I think we all agree with that. So, hey, leave your comments in the box. What'd you think of it? Should we hashtag Mark Driscoll apologize, or what should we do, right? But I definitely think that's not good. Okay, let's talk about. It's funny, as I talked about this yesterday. Yesterday in the Word, I discussed about being rooted and built up in Christ Jesus. I wanted to get your thoughts on being rooted and built up. When I talked about being rooted and built up, what was the first thing that you thought of, Bishop?
Well, I mean, that scripture is being rooted in Jesus. Is letting him sort of guide and lead your life, and whatever decision you make is going to come back to that. That's what sustain you in life.
So how does one become rooted though? Like when you think of the imagery, Paul, out of all the things Paul could have said, be firmly established, be a pillar, but he used the word rooted. Why do you feel like he used the word rooted?
Well, I guess I think of the idea of roots is just sustain life of the tree. Okay. It's to go get the nutrients, go get the water. So what sustains you? Like what do you run to in harsh times? Like, are you running to things that are ungodly, or are you running to Christ and being rooted in him? So that everything that comes out, all the fruit that comes from your tree comes from those roots that's connected to Christ.
What about you? What about you, Togan? When I said the word rooted and being built up, what imagery did that get in your? I saw you looking at your notes. Yeah. What were you thinking?
You had mentioned, one of the only ways to grow deep roots is to be planted in soil for a long time, and I thought that was really good. I just had the visual of like my yard right now in the front. Just
how's it looking?
We're holding on. the back's gone, and the front is holding on. And just like that, the time of year, like where that soil just gets so dry, and the roots are just so easily you can just pull them up.
We out here in that hell heat though, bro. This that I don't want to go to hell heat out here in Fresno, boy.
And so anyway, I just but then the flip side of that, being from Oregon, like I'm so used to like really wet, dark, soil and just such a great place for stuff to grow. And so as you were talking about being rooted, I really just saw like the underside of plants and the roots shooting down and being encouraged. Like it takes time.
Right.
Like it doesn't just happen overnight.
Right.
We like to have the little science experiment with the kids classes, and you put the seed in there, and then they water it for a day, and by day 2 they've already forgot about it, and it's on your it's by your window, and the seed's dead. But because it just takes time. And so that idea of like, if you want to have deep roots, it just takes a lot of time.
One of the things I said yesterday, Bishop, I think you may recall, is I said, when most people leave a church, they very seldom leave over theological disagreements, because usually that's kind of decided beforehand or in the first month or two. But most people leave because of a relationship that's either went sour, or they're not able to reconcile, or some type of relational, emotional frustration, right? And I feel like those are the things that eat at the roots. Those are the viruses that come in and they literally eat at the roots. What did you think about when I made that statement? I even threw it. I even said, I bet you it's over 80 to 90% of people. That's why they leave. And the other 10% leave probably because of a theological disagreement. Do you think my numbers are off? Or, you've been in church a long time. Could you see where I was going with that?
Yeah, I don't think most people are leaving over doctrinal issues. It's going to be some type of relational issue why people are leaving.
But did you feel comfortable with me just throwing out the number? You would say 8 or 9 out of 10 probably leave for the relational?
Yeah, I mean, top of my head, I'm probably more. I can only think of one person who's like left our church because of doctrinal issue.
Out of all the people that have left,
I will say this.
Okay.
I think one of the reasons why we saw that mass exodus during COVID and all the BLM stuff is I think that was so divisive.
Okay.
Where you had people who were leaving because of relational. But then now you're having people who were like, "Oh, I didn't know our stance was like this."
Okay,
that's true.
Okay.
Or I wish that we would stand on it a different way.
Right.
And so if you take out that box of that block of like 4 years, whatever, I totally agree.
No, you are right. Because there are people. I mean, you're really right. Because people who come to our church, they think we're a certain way. They think we're really liberal.
Right.
When they walk in and they realize, they believe the Bible. Because we put it that way, there's a few more I could think of who left when they found out we actually believe the Bible.
Okay, but you know what's funny is it's so crazy you would even say that right now. So for whatever reason, I go on my walks. My walking days are Saturday and Sunday. Like I just defrag from the week and all that. And I thought, man, we have equally upset people on both sides of the aisle so much. I'm just used to it now. Like I'm just so used to it. And I thought about something. How would I best describe myself? And I thought, just laugh at me if you want to, but this I literally thought. I thought when it comes to myself personally, right, and how I view the context of the gospel and stuff, relationally, when it comes to the nuclear home, the family home, ultra conservative. But when it comes to other social justices, this is according to my conservative friends, they consider me very liberal. They go, man, you're super conservative when it comes to the nuclear family, but you're really liberal when it comes to social justices. And I was like, I never thought about it like that. So I get the reverse effect when it comes from my liberal friends. They're like, dude, you're super conservative on, the nuclear family, and you're super conservative on social justices. And I'm like, bro, the only thing I'm consistent on apparently is what I believe about family. I go, oh, that's good. And I think it's just dependent on the person who you talk to. because they heard our episode when we talked about, and I said, like, if you had gotten 100 Christians together in a room, I bet you 90% of them would say, hey, yes, we don't want those who are causing trouble here, the raping girls, selling drugs, send all those people back. And then when we said, hey, but equally, for the people who are doing jobs here, whether it's construction or maids or yards, whatever, we'd be like, hey, can we not work this out over here? And they took that as I was socially liberal. And you know what I took it as? We're just fair. We're just concerned believers. I didn't take it as any. And then my liberal friends are like, man, you're too conservative. Everybody needs to stay. And I'm like, I can't make anybody happy. And I was describing that about myself because we are a Bible believing church and we try to filter everything through the gospel lens. And I think people don't see that. I don't think people take the time to really hear us. They hear a cliche or they hear something and they write a whole book instead of really hearing how we came here or how we arrived to this conclusion. And so going back to the relational doctrinal thing, I think people just aren't listening. We haven't changed. It's like, was that really anything new? When I got up yesterday and said, we're a charismatic church, we're going to contend for healings, and we believe in women in ministry and we're going to platform them. And nobody seemed too shocked, but I wonder if there were a few people who were shocked. But I would tell you what they were shocked at, Bishop. This was crazy. Every time I said, but there are people who I listen to who completely disagree with me, and I still listen to them, bro, you'd have thought I said something very controversial. Have we lost our ability to be able to listen to people who don't think like us? Have we really become a generation that's only got echo chambers instead of diverse thoughts? Has that really happened? Because, you could see people like, he does what? Like, people would be surprised. I like John MacArthur. He completely disagreed. He'd tell me I'm crazy for speaking in tongues and women in ministry. He actually, how about John say, you're just wrong, Anthony. You're just wrong. You're unqualified because you're wrong. And I would still go eat Doghouse with them, which is a great tri-tip sandwich place, or I'd still go golf with them. It doesn't bother me that he thinks I'm wrong. I feel secure in my position. Does that make sense? But people looked at me like they were stunned that I would listen to him on a regular basis when he's a solid Bible teacher. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Listening to people who don't necessarily agree, with everything you believe.
I try to every once in a while listen to someone maybe on politics, people are more liberal to see their point of views. But I don't go too far out. I'm pretty.
No, I'm talking about as far as the Bible.
The Bible. I'm pretty stick to a few people.
He is.
I'm not going too much out of my category.
No, you just don't like preachers like I like preachers. You don't like preachers.
Well, yeah. I got what's the one you like? Joseph Franklin. I have him. I'm subscribed to his podcast. I haven't really listened to him. I haven't really listened to him yet.
One step at a time.
Yeah, I'm subscribed to him. But
you don't even get that preachy.
No, and I think he's a solid teacher. That's just a different style.
But you did listen to a lot of Rob. I know we're not supposed to say the name Robert Morris, but this is before we knew anything. Can we plead the fifth on that? Right? We didn't know anything.
Oh yeah.
You used to listen to a lot of him. He was a solid teacher.
Yeah.
Chris Hodges.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. Well, what do you think about? Why do you think people were shocked by when I said that though? Like I listen to people who necessarily don't agree with my stance. And by the way, it's only those two things. I think him and I agree on everything else. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I feel like just because we don't agree on those two things, I don't need your approval to reinforce what I believe. So therefore, I can listen to you about other stuff. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think we're just probably more so than ever or a long time been everybody's in camps. And, if you're in this camp, you can't have anything to do with this other camp because this other camp is like this, right? And when you have guys like Driscoll saying these super racist things, okay, well, then if you say something like, I listen to John MacArthur, and let's say John MacArthur's in Driscoll's camp, then it's like, wow,
you're right
I
on
can't
that. No,
believe
you're right.
you're over here listening to
right
a bunch of bigot racists, right? So, I think that's kind of where the shock value comes now.
I got you.
Is that and we've talked about this tons of times about how you just don't have a table anymore where people are sitting down with different views.
Isn't that what's lacking though? Is we don't have a table with different views. Isn't that what's really lacking?
It is, and I think one of the reasons, well, there's multiple reasons. I think one of the reasons is media is eating this up because this is how they get the clicks, right? So right. they continue to fan the flame of this divisiveness, and because of that, they're eating well financially, and then we're just taking in as consumers getting more and more divisive to where it's like we shouldn't, I can't sit down at a table with somebody who's different.
But the truth is, nobody fights like church folks. Think about how many wars have been started over ideological differences or theological differences. Nobody fights like the church. And I think we've lost our ability to sit down and to be amiable and to be able to say, hey, I don't agree with your position, but you're still my friend. And that's what I was really trying to walk through people. If you are rooted and you're established in God, in Christ, you could be secure and mature. You could be secure and you could be mature. And secure in the fact that you know what you believe and you believe what you know, and mature enough to say, hey, listen, you can still be my friend even though we don't see eye to eye. You can still be my friend. It's all good. You can have your difference of opinion on that. And I respect that. And I can respect that opinion. I don't agree with that opinion, but I can respect that opinion. And guess what? Sooner or later, it's all going to pan out on who was right and who was wrong anyway. That's how it really works. But we've lost that. And I'll give you a good case in point. What's going on with Israel right now? What's going on with Israel? This has become a very divided subject. And Bishop, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and pull out your phone to Romans 11. 25 and 26 specifically. Any translation is fine. I'm in the New King James. That's how I've kind of got it memorized right now. But you can go NIV, go NASB. It doesn't matter. We had some people come after us online. That's what I was referring to earlier about that smoke. About, my dispensation theology is whack. It's fairly new. It's more covenant theology. Okay. We could, you hit me up. We could argue about it. We could talk about it. We could discuss it. I still respect your opinion. I don't necessarily agree with your opinion, and I'm gonna show you why. I realize that people are trying to delineate between the nation of Israel. They got upset that we called them Jews. Okay, would you like Hebrews? Would you like Israelites? What would you like to call them? Like, semantics here. What do you want to do? The people of God? Whatever you want to call them. The thing that I can't get past is Romans 11, 25 and 26. And how I feel, and y'all covenant theology people out there, you can correct me in this. How does this work into your framework of theology? Romans 9 is all about the Jewish past. Romans 10 is about the present condition that Jews are not believing in Messiah. And Romans 11 is a prophetic promise of the future. If you wouldn't mind, Bishop, reading 11, 25 through 26, or maybe even 27, but go ahead. I think it's the rest of that chapter, but go ahead. Into the mic, yep. Clearly.
I don't want you to be ignorant of this mystery, brothers and sisters, so that you may not be conceited. Israel has experienced a hardening in part until the full number of Gentiles has come in. And in this way, all Israel will be saved.
Stop right there. Please. Sorry about that. Let's break this down. You've been in church your whole life. Have you heard anybody do a teaching on 1125, the mystery? What do you remember?
In church? No, but I've heard John MacArthur. It's been a while. Fine. Yeah.
No. He's not wrong on this, by the way. I've heard his 1125. But go ahead. What were you saying? What's the mystery Paul's referring to?
The mystery, I'm just reading it. From my understanding, is this right now, Israel's heart, God is hardening Israel's heart.
Yeah.
So that the Gentiles, so the gospel is able to go to the Gentiles.
Real quickly, for those who are going to be commenting again, when you say Israel, who are you referring to? Are you referring to the government?
Okay, let's see. The 12 tribes.
There you go. Okay.
Abraham's, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Then we got Jacob's kids. They go down to the 12.
So you're referring to just so we don't have to hear them again when they comment on when we say Jews. You're talking about the Hebrews, the Israelites, the 12 tribes.
Yeah, the whole Jew.
That was so dumb. I know, but they
because eventually they call other tribes like the tribe of Benjamin. They call them Jews too. So it became a term that was known for basically all of Israel.
That's
at some point.
So we talk about the mystery, and then he says the age of Gentiles. And the age of Gentiles, he said that you should not be, in other words, that you should be blinded to the fact that you should be made aware. In other words, you should recognize what's going on. What is he referring to? Now, unless you read 9, 10, and 11 in context, you have no clue to what Paul is trying to communicate to you. Paul being a what? Jew from the tribe of Benjamin. Okay? He says, I'm an Israelite. Okay? He's trying to say the age of Gentile, which is us. There's an age of the Gentiles when the church goes forward and preaches the gospel. And he says, I don't want you to be ignorant of this mystery. What's the word ignorant mean? It means blinded to the fact. It means unaware, unassuming, not knowing. He says, I don't want you to be unaware of this mystery, brothers and sisters, so that you may not be conceited. In other words, he says, don't be arrogant and think it's all about you. And what I see on the other side is people are arrogant, thinking it's all about the Christian church and about what Jesus did, in the sense of like, we no longer need them and God has no plan for them. He says, don't be haughty about it. Don't be puffed up about it. Don't be a despot about it. He says what? Israel has experienced a hardening in part. What does he mean by a hardening in part? It's just a season until the full time of the Gentiles. In other words, till God is done doing his work with the Gentiles. And then look what he says. All Israel will be what? From what? Saved from what? He goes on to say, as it is written, the deliverer will come from Zion. He will turn godlessness away from Jacob. And this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. As far as the gospel is concerned, they are enemies for your sake. But as far as election is concerned, they are loved on account of the patriarchs. We've always quoted the scripture wrong. 11:29, we always use it for people's callings, which we can, but it's not what it's in context. He says, for God's gifts and callings are irrevocable. God is not done with the Jews. Now that is but I don't know how many times we got to say this. So I'll look in the camera and say it. We are not talking about a government. A government is established by people. And we're not signing off on all the atrocities the Israeli government has done. I don't know how many times we ever got to say that. But God, listen, there is a war coming that's going to end all wars. Jesus is returning to the Mount of Olives, not Yosemite National Park mountain over here, okay? Not Half Dome. He's returning back to a specific place. And if you read the book of Revelation, it all takes down in a specific place, Megiddo. And there's going to be a specific group of people who are end time prophets and evangelists. You can't get away from this. God is not done with them. So the question should become is, how do we navigate this? How do we navigate this as believers? First and foremost, I simply submit to you guys, there should be some tension in this. We should feel caught in the middle. We see people suffering in Gaza, women and children and other innocent people. There should be aid for them. As believers, we should be crying out and demanding there should be aid for them. That we should put the pressure on the Israeli government. Stop. Enough's enough. Figure out another way. And over here, we should be praying that God would reach Jews as he is. There are Jews who are getting saved, who are becoming Messianic Jews. And we should be continuing asking for an outpouring of that. Now, people would say, well, our government should stop funding money, like Candace Owen said. Stop funding money over there so they could bomb more people. I agree, but we fund a lot of people. I was talking to a brother this weekend, America Big Brother is everybody. Think about how many people got bombs from us. So I agree. But I'm telling you right now that I think both people are fighting so hard, nobody's sitting in the middle and going, hey, we need to call this fair, and we need to call it right now. What's your take on what I'm saying?
Yeah, if we feel like it truly is what they're doing in Gaza is wrong, America can come and Big Brother Israel. They need us.
They do. You're right.
Yeah, they don't survive without us right now.
It ain't just we need them.
Oh, no, yeah, no.
There ain't no Israel idol worship over here.
Israel need us more than we need them.
For sure.
Without a doubt. They need us. And so
they ain't got no friends.
Yeah. And we ain't got no missiles.
Ain't no manufacturing going on over there.
Yeah, your Iron Dome doesn't work without us. They go start hitting. Yeah, So we can, if we really feel that's going on, Trump can go and force them. Maybe he doesn't want to. He wants to do it in a way to negotiate with them because they still are our partners. But if he gets to a point, I have no issue with going and saying, no, we're getting food there. I understand that they're using them as shields, but we're still going to help these people in this way.
We still got to figure out a way to get aid there. We still got to take care of people who are wounded.
I have no issue with that.
100% agree. What do you think? You agree with that too?
Yeah, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Everybody's in camps, and you can't.
But now's the time to form a different camp called the camp of sense and sensibility, the camp of reason. We need a new camp.
I don't disagree.
We need a new camp. But they do, because then you got people over here, protect Israel at all costs. Not if they keep getting us into war. Someone's got to step up. We always talk about that friend who always got us in a fight. Somebody got to pull, someone got to pull Bubba aside. Sooner or later go, hey, man, you're going to run your mouth. You're going to have to cash that check.
Well, it was It was interesting to see that that interview that Trump did the other day where he was pretty candid.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I've ever heard a president cuss before.
You know what though? I had no problem with it.
It was kind of refreshing.
It was refreshing because you know what? This is what I respect about the guy. There ain't no politicking in him. He said there are two people who've been fighting so long they don't know.
They don't know what they're doing.
And you know what? I felt like that was a well placed word right there. And then he did the walk off. I'm like, that's OG style right there. That reminded me of my old man. He dropped a bomb and he's like, I'm out, gone. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm talking about. Some people, that was a very presidential. I don't need a president right now. I need somebody who's going to go slap everybody around and say, you better act right.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes parents, you need to do that to your kids. You need to tell them act right. But I agree. I'm just saying there's this whole controversy and you can't escape Romans 11. And that's what I try to tell people. God has still got a plan for the Israelites. He's still got a plan for the Jews. I don't know what it is. I'm trying. It's still somewhat of a mystery for me. But I know you just can't write them off, and I see people trying to do that. And I will bring up this. Candace Owens came up this week, and people were sending it to me. I must have been busy this week because I didn't know any of this stuff was happening. But apparently there was an organization that went after her, and I know this organization, Eagle's Wings, and allegedly they went after her, and basically. There was a rumor. I don't know if this rumor is verified, but apparently, and I do know this organization, they put out talking points for pastors to preach against her and Tucker Carlson. And so she shows a clip on YouTube of a pastor bringing up her name and Tucker Carlson specifically, and that this pastor had went on a trip sponsored by Eagles Wings, allegedly. I don't know any of this because I don't know the guy, and I don't have any talking points. I'm just telling you what she said on the thing. And I will agree with one thing. And I'm going to tell you what I agree with. We don't need to idolize Israel. There's no idol worship. The only one who gets our worship is Jesus Christ. Now, I love Israel. You guys know that. I love it there. That's, to me, that's roots. That's my spiritual roots. If I would live there, I could. I'd preach the gospel there. I just love it. I love everything about it. It calls to me, okay? But if you need to put out talking points to prove somebody wrong, you got a problem. If people can't discern for themselves what is right and what is wrong, that's the problem. God's people are living in ignorance. And in the same breath, it's not allegiance to any one nation in the sense of wholeheartedness to where you can't call stuff out. The only person who gets unfettered allegiance is Jesus Christ. But we've called out our own government. You know what I mean? We've called out our own city. We've called each other out. We call out everybody. Because the only person who gets 100% allegiance is Jesus Christ. Now, I'm grateful. We've said this already. I feel like we need to say it again because someone's going to comment. I'm grateful to be an American. I'm more than grateful. I wouldn't rather be anywhere else. I love it here. This is my country. But I tell you right now, I do realize I am a dual citizen. I got citizenship here, but my ultimate citizenship is in heaven. And that's the one I prize the most. Okay? Because it's going to pass away. But I'm saying you do got people out there, and I will agree with her on this. You got people out there who give Israel 100% loyalty and are afraid to call them on anything. And that's wrong. There's no idol worship there. That's wrong. And you should be able to freely criticize things they do like we freely criticize things we do here. Is that an amen point? You guys good with that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But she ain't wrong on that. She ain't wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what she said, but...
Well, she talked about people are just Israel can do no wrong, basically.
Oh, yeah. I don't understand that at all. Like people are still broken people. People are if you're a politician, it's a really good chance that it doesn't matter what country you're in it for yourself.
I feel like we could write off on that
Israel,
one right there.
Iran, Nicaragua, it doesn't matter.
America,
yes.
City council,
yes.
State council, everybody's council.
It doesn't matter if you're Pelosi or somebody on the other side of the aisle. Like you're trying to get those pockets fat.
Oh, that's for sure. You agree with that too, huh?
Yep.
Speaking of pockets fat, out here in Cali, we shooting this on a Monday, but you know what tomorrow is, July 1st, right?
Okay.
You know what's happening tomorrow?
Pockets flat.
Yeah, it's the opposite of fat. It's flat.
Why is that the gas tax?
Okay, how ironic is it's a 66.6 tax percent raise.
If Newsom had a jersey, would that be his number?
666. Hey, is that the irony of life though? 66.6 cents. Is that just seem demonic? The state. It's us. It's a gas tax.
I was telling people yesterday, Mike didn't agree with me. We should go protest. I'll get out there. I'm down. My first protest.
I'm down for. Hey, we all in. We've saved it for the right reason.
Yeah.
We there.
Yeah.
Hey, that means tomorrow when we wake up, like I think gas is right about $3.95 to $4.05. At Chevron, still $5. You know what I'm saying? I was kidding. But it is still more expensive. That means tomorrow when we wake up, the average price is going to be over $4.55 tomorrow. Yeah, for y'all living out of state, comment how much your yeah, we want to know from Texas how much you paying for gas, Texas. Woo! Hey,
they still got a dollar menu out there. You know
tomorrow, hey, everything's about to shoot up again. Just when I'm starting to get okay,
time to hit the streets.
We gotta hit the streets. Hey, y'all want something to march about? We need to march about this pronto. Okay, immediately. Okay. So speaking of things on the heart, I'm glad we got to clarify about the whole Israel thing. Nate, can we put that link right there in the bio on the podcast to the Candace Owens clip that we were talking about the Israel? Then you guys can watch it for yourself. It's like a 6-minute clip, but I don't want to do all that. So guys, talking about the heart of the matter, I wanted to help our people who listen to navigate worship and worship music. And the reason I bring this up, if you guys will, you guys weren't born yet, okay? Because you youngsters over here. But DC Talk was the talk of the town, and in 95, I believe it was. Nate, you can fact check me if you want. It was either 95 or 96. They came out with Jesus Freak. And this song changed the game. What would people say if I was a Jesus freak? It was absolutely. Thank you. I was right. 95. You like that? That memory's good, boy. Still sharp as a tack over here. And Michael Tait. There was 2 white guys and a black dude. Michael Tait's the black guy. He went on to have a very successful career at DC Talk, and then he went on to be the lead singer of the Newsboys. And it recently came out that Michael Tait literally had a drug addiction, a sexual life addiction. He was tore up from the floor, which I understand broken people, and I get it. That's not the controversial part, although that's in and of itself. What made it worse, if it could get worse, I know that sounds strange, was a lot of people from the industry said they were aware of this. And that's the reason why a lot of people didn't want to tour with Newsboys. But what was concerning is, if we could scroll back up, is Corey Asbury came out and said that he's an author, he's a writer and a producer and all this, but he also writes a lot of worship songs. And Corey Asbury came out and said nobody was shocked by this. We all knew he had an issue. And so we have another guy calling out Corey Asbury saying, listen, if you knew that this was going on and you knew the industry was corrupt, why do you partake of it? Like, why isn't anybody saying anything? Why isn't anybody doing anything? And this brings me to very much a concern that I have. Is, are we turning a blind eye to make $1 in the music industry? Is the music industry in the world, with all this going on with P. Diddy, is it just as bad in the Christian world too? Or what's really going on? And how do we help people navigate when they're spending $10, $15, $30, $50, $100 to go see these artists perform, and yet these artists in some sort of strange way are using it to do nefarious things? What's your take on this, Bishop? How do we walk through this? How do we handle this?
Yeah, you saw with Diddy. I mean, you gave a good point. Like, I don't think everyone agrees with everything he did, even people who may be there, but it's like, oh, he can make a way for me. And so you go along with it. And people were the same way with this. It's like, oh, this will make a way for me. And so don't go to a concert. There you go. Stay home. Go to church. Go worship at church.
Okay. What do you think?
Man, it's pretty disheartening to see him say that comment, the Corey Asbury. You know, everybody knew it. It's like, so that makes it right. You don't speak up because what?
Or is he saying there's nothing we can do to change it? I don't know how to. I don't know him either. I don't know how to interpret that.
Yeah, I guess that's a hard way to, without knowing maybe all the different layers to that. But I mean, you know,
does that
if God gives you a platform, right? Like, why not use it? And if it causes you to lose some fans, if it causes you to lose some money, it's like, yeah, but you at least made a difference.
Okay, but my question is to you guys: does this make you second guess some other artists who are out there and how they're living and what's going on, or are you automatically assuming the worst?
Man, you know me and him when it comes to music and stuff, we already assume the worst. I think
I should just end the podcast, huh?
I think
No, you don't
Lecrae's
know.
not the only the Christian artist at the Diddy concert. You know what I mean? I think they were playing, or at the Diddy parties, they probably playing Maverick City in the background of some of his Diddy stuff.
Shots fired.
No, you mean you just don't know. I mean, Robert Morris, the situation he's in, but he touched people's lives. Like, God used him still. You can say whatever you want, but during those years, like, man, his church grew. People found freedom. All those things that God used. So you just don't know. So you want to do your best to know, like, hopefully the person's doing well, but you just can't know. So if something touched your life, like, their music or, their preaching, and you find out later on, it's like what God did in your life is still valid. So you don't have to walk around with that constant fear all the time, with that constant judgment all the time.
What I think also, sorry, but
No,
I think that it's a constant encouragement for us. Like, don't put people in a place that like they shouldn't be. Don't make people idols. Don't expect something out of them that's not, them just being people. Like, people are people. People are still broken. These guys that are making it, in the industry as far as like worship music, like, yeah, if you don't deal with your past, if you don't deal with your traumas, it doesn't matter what kind of great gifting you have. It's going to be exposed.
You're bringing up a great question. Can I ask you guys a question? Do you feel, because I do you feel that worship leaders get a pass? That they don't have to work on their stuff? That they don't have to work on their shortcomings, battle their demons? Do you feel like they get a pass because of their charisma, because of their talent, because of their skill? Do you feel like they get a free pass? They can get divorced and be right back up on stage. They can have a sexual addiction and be right back up on stage. They can have a drug addiction and be right back up stage. Do you think they get a special pass?
Like, more so than, like, let's say a
Anybody else?
Communicator on stage. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're not seen as a pastor. They're just seen as,
But why do they get a pass? Show me in the Bible why they should get a pass.
Because people like their music.
So we're more concerned about the butts in the seats and the bucks in our pockets than we are the character and integrity of the person singing the song?
Yeah, people are still listening to R. Kelly and Michael Jackson.
Well, he brought up a very good point. That shut me up real quick. Yeah. Hold on. Drop. Gone.
Well,
So I'm not gonna lie. Hold on. I'm gonna give you a truthful moment. I like me some Michael. I mean, I turned to my wife the other day. I go, man, do you know "Man in the Mirror" was such a good song? I told her that the other day. You're right. I'm guilty, and I don't care what anybody says. I Believe I Can Fly is still jamming. That's all I got to say. It's okay. Next subject. But they get a pass. He's looking to be like, only my pastor was there.
I was just thinking, man, like, too bad for R. Kelly. You know what I mean? People turn his stuff off. Michael keeps getting played. Michael gets played at like elementary school graduation still.
Hey, that's true.
He that good.
You go to some like major children's events and they're playing Michael Jackson, and I'm like, do you all not know?
Read the
Like,
room. It's true though. That's true. But they get a pass. If a pastor gets up and he says, hey, I really feel like the Lord has given me a word. I think every single life in here is going to be changed. And if you're not changed, it's because you didn't listen to it. Because I'm telling you right now, this word is fire. You're going to walk out the room going, man, this man's a little bit full of himself. This man's a little bit arrogant. This man's a little bit something. But if a worship leader gets up and says, man, I wrote this song and I really feel like you guys are going to be moved by it. This is a great song. Nobody bats an eye. I'll prove it to you. Watch this clip.
Right, this next song is one I wrote myself. It's about humility. Let's go. Right, this next song is one I wrote myself. It's about humility. Let's go.
Okay, we know that's AI, but the point is, that's exactly what happens. I feel like these people get a pass. Do you feel like they get a pass, or do you think I'm being a little overly sensitive here?
I think it's very, you see a lot just in terms of music or artists. You see it in the church, and I think even outside the church, that people usually who are talented in this area have some stuff, it seems like. Not to say that's required, but it's like it seems like their inspiration comes from hardships or things they've been through, and so they need to work through stuff. And if they're not willing to, then they find themselves in a bad spot. And people maybe sometimes give them a pass because you need them, because they're super talented. I need someone to sing. I need someone to play an instrument, and so you're willing to look past some things and not really pastor them through those things.
So, Mike, have we put a stress on the Christian church that we got to have this dynamic worship. We got to have these skilled musicians. And therefore, since we got to have it to have a central church, therefore, we're going to go ahead and give some free passes to some things. And here's what. Because we've given free passes to, and we've overlooked some things, we've stopped pastoring the people who are behind the lights and up on a stage. And have we failed them in that way, that we failed to pastor? I'm going to tell you now, Maverick City's doing a whole little behind the scenes of Maverick City podcast right now. And the number one glaring thing that I keep seeing as these guys, these young men of God, I should say, hopefully they're young men of God. One thing I keep hearing is, you don't have a pastor. You don't have a pastor. You don't have a pastor. You don't have anybody speaking into your life. And it shows. But I feel like for the sake of the goose that lays the golden egg, we've overlooked the diet of the goose. And sooner or later, it's going to stop laying golden eggs.
Because a lot of times the worship pastor could be bigger named than the pastor. A lot of the guys that walk in, they're going to be bigger than most pastors in America.
For sure.
And so it's like, well, I bring people to the church. Well, I mean, isn't that the big thing with Hillsong? When they go open up a church, they have all these musicians that want to come be a part of the church.
It's true.
Like, who is the pastor even of the church?
It's true.
And so I think if they're not careful, I think even for those people who are very talented, I think it also is difficult. It can be difficult when everyone wants to talk to you, give you all this praise. Like, I think you have to be in a good headspace. Like, I think that's something difficult to overcome also. When everyone's always telling you that you're doing a great job, that, man, I love your songs, I listen to this all the time, it's easily you can fall on the other side, to the dark side.
Well, I think especially when that gift is like associated with who you are. Like, it's your voice, right? So it's
super
like,
personal.
Yeah. So I think the criticism is probably harder than most criticisms, and I think the praise is probably a lot more hard to receive as well. And so having a good pastor to help you stay grounded, to continue to work through your past, so that you don't use those gifts for the bad. But I will say this, because I want to make sure that for all my worship folks out there, that I'm not like a worship hater. I will say, we usually do this in other areas as well. We talk about, the podcast is all about culture and its influence on the church. And what we're seeing is, this is what we do culturally as well. If you can hit a baseball, score a touchdown.
No, you're right.
You can also hit your wife.
Yeah, speak on it. Yeah.
You can also do drugs. You can also, fight dogs. You can also do these different things. If you can, if you're in a Fortune 500 company, and you can grow teams, and you can, pick the right stocks, then you continue to have the same position. And so culturally, we allow people with serious character defects to have very high platforms.
He's right.
And we turn the eye when it benefits the whole team, benefits the whole organization, benefits the whole company, and we all get to eat off that person. Well, unfortunately, if that goes into the church, then we bypass, or we look away from the worship leader who's, doing these really egregious things. If everybody's eating off of it, what does that mean? It means that the children's pastor still gets paid because there's people who are coming to church every week. It means that the pastor still feels good because there are people who are coming to church every week. So it's like what we see outside of the church now comes inside of the church.
That was good.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, if Brendan Lake comes to our church, it would be stupid to say our attendance doesn't go up.
Oh, listen.
So we can say whatever we want to say about him, but he shows up to the church and we're adding more services.
Listen, I'm not going to argue any of that. I'm quite the opposite. I called this title of the episode called Behind the Music. And I think this is just me. I got my pastor hat on. What I see is a whole generation of gifted people who are no longer being pastored. And they only realize it when it's too late, when their marriage has failed, when they're strung out on drugs, when they're drinking alcohol every night to go to sleep, when they're cheating on their wife. When these things start to happen, they realize then they were never covered. They didn't have a pastor. They didn't have somebody speaking in their lives. They didn't have somebody coaching up how to be a good dad, how to be a good husband. They get out on the road. People are loving their gifts and talents, but they don't love them. Because if you love them, you would take care of them. You'd be able to come up to them and say, hey, man, you're out of pocket right there, bro. That's out of character. Over there in the corner talking to that little honey over there. Nah, man, you married, bro. We got to get you a get-back coach. You got to get back. You got to remember why you're out here. You're out here to put food on the table, not to get a second family. And I think we failed them. And I think we have. And this is how you start to get 1 degree off. And the next thing you know, you just gone. Right? And that's what's concerning to me. Next thing you know, you're Michael Tait, which, by the way, the newest allegation is he let a young girl get drunk. And then one of his, one of his management people, I don't know how it works on the road, but they came in and raped her. And he didn't stop it. He literally didn't stop it. And there's some bad allegations out there right now. And I'm saying we get this far because nobody is pastoring people. We're not speaking in there. We're not calling it out. We're not saying, listen, we're not being prophets and plumb lines. We're not saying, listen, yo, man, look, Ray, you can't go to a Diddy party. No, you shouldn't sample that album. No, you shouldn't be over there. Nah, man, you got to keep your head on a swivel, man. The devil's trying to take you out. Now, I don't know if you should go do that rap fest over there because there's going to be a whole lot of weed, a whole lot of drinking. If you do go, you got to have a whole crew of people around you. You got to get in and get out. You can't linger. You can't linger in Sodom and Gomorrah. And not expect to end up not expect to end up an infidel, to end up as another apostate, another unbeliever. You can't expect to not partake of the world if you in the world. Listen. If you hang out long enough with Caesar, you're going to become a Roman. That's just the bottom line. You can't expect to do that. And we have pastors who are lazy. They don't want to pastor people. All these people started out in church. Invest in them. Call them out on stuff. Say, hey, man, listen. I think you need to take a little bit of a break. It's too much about you. Everybody should be approachable and coachable. Everybody should be approachable and coachable. I'm telling you, man, we need to bring back a resurgence of the Keith Greens who would just remind the church, amen, it's about Jesus, who then would remind other worship leaders, amen, you got to keep, here it is, your head small and your heart big. That's the secret sauce. There's stories of Keith Green who would walk into a Denny's and pick up a mop and a bucket and go mop the bathroom. People are like, why are you doing that? You Keith Green? He goes, because I got to stay humble. I got to remember the greatest of us is still a servant. But nobody asked you. He goes, God asked me. He says, you're never allowed and never excused not to be a servant. That's what I'm talking about. I want you to listen to this. I don't know if you guys know who this is, but I'll let you know who he is after we watch this clip right here.
Check out what this man says about Christian music. Listen to this.
It's so funny being a Christian musician because it always scares me when I talk to you guys and you guys think so highly of Christian music, contemporary Christian music especially, because I kind of go, man, I know a lot of us, and we don't know jack about anything. Not that I don't want you to buy our records. You come to our concerts, I sure do. But you should come for entertainment. If you really want spiritual nourishment, you should go to church. Those people care about you. And you don't have to buy a ticket.
Man. What do you say to that? You know who he is, by the way?
No.
You can watch his movie, Rich Mullins and the Ragamuffin Band.
Ragamuffin?
Ragamuffin Band. It's great. You like it, man. He's got a whole Portland vibe to him.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, his eyes aren't even all the way open.
No. He lived a hard life. He never lied about it. He never made an excuse about it. He tell you that's why he just said what he said. He said, "Go to church. They care about it." What'd you think of that?
It's refreshing, and I think that there are some really, really solid worship leaders out there.
There are,
and I think there are people who are grounded in their church, love God, love their families, extremely gifted.
You think those are the ones who are being pastored and grounded?
Yeah, and there are people like him who are willing to. I mean, you got to be willing to be pastored.
That's so good.
And so. Yeah, I think that the more that we make the more that we shine the light brighter on the worship leaders, I think that it's just unfortunately going to continue to spiral out of control until we kind of like can figure out a way to pull it back a little bit, So,
what'd you think of that video?
No, yeah, I like it. I mean, I think it's just in general, any leader, just don't, put them first. Don't put them first. Put Christ first. Anyone could fail you, whether it be a worship leader, a pastor, your own very own mentor, that you spend a lot of time with. You're like, man, this guy was the one that was mentoring my whole life, my Christian life, and I see him fail. Let it depend on Christ. But got people around you who will lead you, guide you, some great music, maybe a song that, the song of the summer, the Christian song of the summer you might have, that really motivates you. You see that sinker sort of mess up?
He's looking at me when he says that. He knows I got a song for the summer. You already know I do.
I've been thinking about, do I have a song of summer?
He already knows I do. That's why he said. That's why he looked at me laughing already. He goes, Pastor got a song for the summer. I do. I think songs.
Yeah, but if that person messes up, doesn't mean like, oh man, I can't listen to that song anymore. It's just like, hey, these are people.
Yeah, I want to just take a moment and speak to the worship leaders out there. We're not throwing shade. We're not casting stones. We're not doing any of that. My concern is for you. God has given you a huge talent. By the way, when we think of the parable of the 5 talents, right? He said he gave one, 2, and the other 5, and you're 5 talent people. What you're able to do and how you're able to lead people into worship in the presence of God. But let me give you some advice. Number 1, you can't take people where you haven't been. Worship leader, I'm speaking to you. If you don't have quiet times with the Lord, if you don't have David-type moments where it's just you and your instrument and you're worshiping the Lord and you're falling in love with him, you won't ever be able to take people where you have not been. But if you've been with him, they'll know. It says in the book of Acts, they were ignorant, unlearned, untrained men, but they could tell they had been with Jesus. So goal number 1 is you need to be with Jesus. Number 2, you got to realize that God is the one who's given you the ability to write songs, to even sing the songs. This isn't anything you've done of your own self. You can practice all you want, but when the anointing hits, it's not you, it's God. So even to write the songs, he's gifted you with the poetic ability to articulate words, to describe things metaphorically, to be able to move people to the presence of God in such a way that their lives are changed. He's given you the vocal ability, the artistic ability, all the abilities you have, they're given by God for God. So what am I saying? It's not about you. That when the music fades and all is stripped away, you simply come just like the rest of us, humble to the throne of grace, humble to God's presence, and you do what the rest of us do. It says, and I looked and I saw in heaven, I, John, all the elders and those angels around did the same thing on bended knee, and they cried, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. I would submit the last thing to you. Keep your heart big and your head small. Said that earlier, but it bears repeating. It's all about him. The moment we think it's about us, we're no better than Satan himself, who thought he was the greatest thing, the prettiest thing, the best thing, the only thing. And how wrong was he? But we have to stay in touch with the people, because it's not even about us. It's about leading them to freedom. It's about that they might experience the presence of God, because where the presence of God is, there's freedom. And those whom the Son sets free is free indeed. You've been given a responsibility, and I say steward that wisely. Get underneath the pastor. If you're currently a worship leader, you're not underneath the pastor and you're not learning, you're not growing, you're not being challenged, you're not being called on certain things, then I recommend you go do that. You need a pastor who's more impressed with your character than your charisma. You need a pastor who's more in love with you as a person, not the platform you bring. You need a pastor who's going to pastor you, who's going to get down into the sheep pen with you and say, I love you enough to sit you down because you're going wayward. Or, hey, let me open this door up for you because I believe you're ready. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Every pastor needs a pastor, and every worship leader needs a pastor as well. I love you guys. It's been out of the podcast. Peace. We're out.